Here we go. Season 1, episode 3 of the Salespeople podcast. It's been a while, mate. How's it going? Had the summer?
Little summer hiatus. Yeah, good, mate. Really good.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Yeah, nice. Nice of you to come here bright and early.
All right, I was 10 minutes late. It's because the roads are terrible again.
And why's that, mate?
Because you lot disappear in the summer and come back and the rest of us just suffer.
I apologise for having a child.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, sorry, mate. So just, if you've not listened to before, firstly, thanks for listening. We are the Salespeople podcast. So this is a podcast where we're the first podcast in the Middle East dedicated to celebrating salespeople. So every week, we're going to have a superstar salesperson, or this week a founder, on the pod talking about their journey and topics that are close to our heart and the wonderful world of sales. Summer, let's talk about it. You know, I think summer in the Middle East very different to other parts of the world. As we've alluded to, it gets hot. People leave. People decide to leave for weeks, months on end. And you always get conversations when you're back. People going, how was the summer? Yeah, it was tough. Couldn't get hold of people. Couldn't do this, couldn't do that. What do you think of the summer? Do you think, is it tough? Is it testing? What do you reckon?
I think it's getting easier. Think back when I first moved out here. 8 years ago, everyone disappeared. There was no decisions being made. Where now it feels like there are decisions being made, whether it be remotely, maybe COVID pushed that so people don't switch off as well during the summer. But it's still quieter. It's always the quieter time. Yeah. Then obviously Ramadan's moved earlier, so Eid's moved earlier. So now we've got sort of 2 disruptions in the year with Eid earlier and then summer as well. So it creates a different time.
And if you're a salesperson that's come back and gone, summer's affected me, performance has been affected by summer, what do you reckon you can do so that next summer that isn't something that comes in the equation?
I don't really know. There's not, you can't force people to be here and make decisions. Yeah. We was in with a founder, weren't we, on Monday talking about what to do this week. And it's sort of, what did you want to close throughout the summer? Now this is the week to really kick that into gear. And any deal that hasn't closed for the last 2 or 3 months, because decision makers have been away, you've got to get all over them this week. Everyone's going to be busy. Everyone's going to be making deals and cracking on, and everyone has that sort of enthusiasm the first couple of weeks. So rather than think about what you're going to do next year, you've probably got 2 weeks to have a real impact before the end of this year. Yeah,
I think for me, one of the things that we've done really good at that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, you probably wouldn't need to do is thinking about the modes of communication.
Yeah.
You think to when we started in sales, email, phone, that's it. And now it's email, phone, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Telegram. You could have impromptu conversations on Zoom, Google Meets, whatever. And every stakeholder has their preferred way.
Yeah.
And there's no one size fits all. Yeah.
Just figuring that out. So, but also not, if they're genuinely off, like leaving them alone.
100%.
As well, and like, don't piss off people during that time, because the deal you thought was going to close and you've managed to piss them off because they're on holiday and you're talking to them, ain't going to close the first week back because you've just ruined their holiday. So you got to respect that time. But if they are working and they're online, then figure out the mode of communication for sure.
But you need to get deals in, and the summer doesn't stop that. And I think today's episode, I think I'm going to cover a lot of that, and it's all about building a sales function and starting something new. And I guess Alistair's going to tell us all about his journey and where he's got to now building out Tiller. But before we get Alistair on, I'd love to know kind of what has your journey been about building out a sales function and how we got to our idea. It's 12 years, 13 years in the making of us being in our own business together and starting a podcast. But we went through a phase where we built out a function, got to a stage where we realised there's a problem. How was that experience going from kind of individual to then someone that's in charge of building out a structure and a journey for hundreds of salespeople?
And I think we'll pick this up hopefully from Alistair later, but from going from an IC or an individual contributor in a fast growth environment into a leader, you don't really have the mentors around you to teach you what to do, and there's no sort of path that you'd get in a big corp where it's obvious, right, if I hire this person then they go on to do this. So there's a lot of sort of figuring out on the ground. And I think where sales is different as well is there's so many skills that you can't test. that's intuitive, and that you sort of have to learn from people around you, where maybe in engineering or something they've got qualifications, I don't know because I don't know anything about engineering, but they've got qualifications and skills that you can test, where sales is so much harder to do that. So when you start building, well, certainly when I started building my team, a lot of it was on gut and feel, and I don't know if we've moved a million miles away from that, or like no one's showed me a scientific way to build a team outside of hiring the right people and then giving them the right skills.
I think like the skill set is one thing, and that is probably the most fundamental, especially in that early stage startup. I think one thing that we've always had in our career that I think we took from early days to now is structure and building in that core structure. So yeah, you can build on mindset, yeah, you can build on character, but as long as everyone understands the same kind of structure, which is pretty simple, then you know that everyone is aligned and you know that you can work with people. I think what we've seen, especially like in the last 4.5 years, is some organisations, salespeople are doing completely different things and doing the completely different paths.
It's so hard to scale, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what works and what doesn't work. So if you're going to scale a team from scratch, you've got to figure out what works and then move people into a space where everyone can do the same. Obviously, you've got to have individualised approaches within inside that, but still same key metrics that measure all the way through.
And in terms of our guest today, Alistair, looking through his journey, what do you want to get out of it, and what do you reckon the objective should be post-podcast?
There's probably not many opportunities where you find a commercial-led founder.
Yeah.
Like, you think a lot of the founders we work with in this region, incredibly smart consultants background, engineers where they've built great products, where Alistair's obviously hugely commercial sales background and now launching a sales-led product. So excited to hear his challenges, because they'll be different to a lot of the challenges we hear. Where, like the founder we sat down earlier in the week, like, fantastic product, how do we sell it? He's probably world class at selling his product, but I'd be interested to figure out how he's building that without it necessarily like the expertise of building product, I guess, and engineering and finance and all of that stuff.
Is he just a good salesperson, or what else is going on?
Yeah, let's see.
Should we get him on?
Yeah, cool.
Cool, let's do this. Here we go. Alistair, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on, mate. Thanks for being on the Salespeople podcast. Amazing journey from what we've seen and what we've heard of the few conversations that we've had, going from kind of Perkbox, Doctify, now into Tiller. Yeah. How has the journey been so far, and how are you feeling?
Yeah, well, pretty buzzing. About 14 years ago, I tried to set up a company. And managed to was going to do advertising about a private hire taxis. I got a Russian satellite company to beam into a little screen in Berkshire taxi. And then was like, I have no idea how to sell. And I was like, better go and find out how to do it. So, went and got a sales job, and was like, I'll come back and be an entrepreneur once I know how to build a company commercially. So finally got there. Took 12 years, but yeah. So
at it. That move into sales was on purpose to figure it out with the end goal of launching a business?
Yeah, 100%. I think I identified, every company I looked at, the purpose seems to be to make money. And if you don't know how to make money, you're in trouble. Yeah. A lot of people went for the Facebook model when it came along, just get users, but there's only a few companies that can do that. And I don't really have that brain. But I have the brain of, if you pick up the phone enough times and talk to enough people, you can probably get some money out of them. So
love that.
That's so I went and learned that, and then got lazier and lazier with cushier jobs, and then eventually snapped out of it and was like, hang on, better get on with this. So yeah, that's why I founded Tiller with Duncan, my co-founder.
How has the journey of Tiller been so far?
Pretty rough, to be honest with you. They say being a founder's a really tough job, and all of a sudden I have far more sympathy for all of the founder CEOs I've ever worked for. But there's been some incredible moments. We raised money through Hatch, VC firm in the UK, and friends and family put in quite a bit of money as well. So that gave us a confidence boost. So that was good. And then about 6 months in, I was like, we should have sold something by now. We haven't. So the last 2 months has been pretty stressful. We launched the product end of July to the market, and so my go-to-market phase was selling in August. So that was fun, with brand new products and everyone in Italy or Dubai. So it's been good though. Finally got some revenue on the board, and got a goal of 100k before end of Feb. So
how are you feeling about that? Can you get to the goal?
Well, I hired someone to help do outreach called Alan, who I worked with at Doctify before, and he's absolutely incredible at it. So once those opportunities open up, you get a lot more confident. And so one of the really tough things about a founder opening up opportunities is I could deal with rejection very easily when I was doing it for someone else's company. And then as soon as you're like, got this great idea. It becomes
so personal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible. You're like, I've got this great idea. You're like, no, you haven't. Oh, okay. I haven't. Like before, just move on, let it dust off. And then you're like, because, everything goes through your head. Have you made the right decision? Should you have taken the easier road? But yeah, so I went through that. And now I've got Alan taking the brunt of it, and it's not personal to him, so he's all right. he's all good. So I just get to turn up and do sales pitches, which is great.
Man, we when we first connected again 2 or 3 months ago, you said almost all the funding that you've got will go into products and operations. You're going to purely lead sales on your own. So why have you decided to bring someone in? Just to...
two things really. One was speed of growth, and when you start doing all the other things that you're required to do when you build a company. Just went through ISO 27001, did that in 6 weeks. Very rough 6 weeks, especially for Duncan, my co-founder. But you're like, well, how was I going to prospect during that time? The first 2 contracts we signed wouldn't have signed without ISO. So, you're like, why won't you just trust me with all of your data? And they're like, oh yeah, they won't. Better show that we're doing everything properly. Which my tech company is it's a hard thing to set up, right? Because you've got people's data going in, you've got all that stuff. So all of that, and then aligned with you doing the pitching, go over a pitch, right? Get back on the phone, find the right time to prospect, get on with it. It's a full-time job prospecting. It's a tough thing to do. So, and we have to, because we've taken revenue, we've got to hit certain milestones quickly in order to then go and raise more revenue, more investment. So, yeah, mainly speed and just making myself feel better. But also we kind of got to a point where our price point, in all our models, our price point was a lot lower, and size of companies we were going to work with was a lot lower. Then we just started to see some traction in some bigger companies, 20, 30 people sales companies, and all of a sudden numbers look a lot better, faster, if you can do that. And so we just had room to then grow, and we saved a load of money in loads of other places. We thought we were going to have to spend much more on design, thought we were going to have to spend much more on getting everything up and running. One of the amazing things about Tech Startup is Amazon give us like £50,000 worth of credit that we hadn't budgeted for in terms of cost of running our product. So things like that, just things move, and some things in a bad way and some in a good way. And so we managed to get Alan in for equity, and there's not as much money as he would usually cost. So it made sense.
And that's often the way, isn't it? When you sort of early stage, I guess from a hired perspective rather than the hirer, quite often you take a salary cut, or you certainly aren't getting a salary you would do in a big corp, but the upside is equity and growth and journey and all of those things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I left Perkbox, when I joined Perkbox, I took a pay cut. Not massive, because it was early in my career. Percentage-wise, it was big, but pounds-wise, it wasn't.
2 less nights out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the real tough one was Perkbox to Doctify, because Perkbox, I spent the last 2 years at that company basically having fun, lots of growth happening, lots of team members around you, all the struggles you go through in the first few years of we can't have a team night out because there's no budget, or you can't have that software because we've got no budget for it. Once you start making money, everything becomes a little bit more open. Can't give any pay rises, all of a sudden you can. Yeah. And then Doctify was kind of back to square one, early days of Perkbox again. And so I remember walking in the Doctify office, and it was a really beautiful office, shared workspace. And I was like, so guys, where's the SDR team? And these 3 guys just looked at me, and I was like, great guys, all right, let's do KPIs. What are you doing? And they were like, we do about 10, 15 calls a day. I was like, great, where's your CRM? Here's a Word doc. I was like, oh my God, I forgot this is what it was like.
What was the pitch like then? So like you took pay cut to get to Perkbox, pay cut for Doctify. What made you do it again and start all over again?
Yeah, pure determination that I wanted to do my own thing. And because I wanted to build a tech company, I knew I'd need funding. Or I would need to find someone like Duncan to not take any pay for 3 years to build it in the background. And so getting people to give you money is about trust, track record, and every single pre-seed, seed fund will go, it's about the idea, and it's about the people you're backing, what their experience is. And I tried to do it after Perkbox. and I went to see about 20 investors, and they said, "Come back when you've done it again."
With Tiller as a concept.
Yeah, similar to concept. Yeah. I wanted to make scripts on acid, probably the wrong phrase. Scripts on steroids work, because I just saw all this. Perkbox had a sales team, massive, 70, 80 people. Obviously, turnover of 25-30%. It's a huge amount of people to onboard all the time. You've got 3 months ramping, and then when someone's going out the door, that's a month or two, a month of them not being productive. So it's just and all the training that had gone into that team before was very focused on academic learning, which is here's what we think you should do. Remember that next time it comes up. And the reality is that never actually happens in a conversation, on a phone call. That working is just not. I've never really seen it work in sales teams. You might get it in 20 or 30% of people, but you're definitely not impacting the behaviour of everyone in the team. So how do we build something that changes the behaviour of the team? The one big difference between Tiller now and Tiller after Doctify was data. The amount of data would go into it. Doctify sales team, lots of junior people coming in, less culture change to, oh, my boss has told me to do this, I'm just going to do it, to show me why I should do it. And every time we did emails being sent out and you proved in data that message versus that message, they'll just flip to that message really quickly. If you go, just say that message, be like, I'm a bit skeptical, I don't know if it's going to work. So now the purpose of Tiller is to prove to agents, this is what the top performers are saying when they're getting this objection handle. And by the way, they're getting it just as much as you, but this is how they're handling it.
So rather than telling them, you're showing them, they buy into it, and therefore
they buy into
the
it.
Adoption is high.
That's the big difference. That's the thing I learned from Doctify that I hadn't learned to Perkbox, because Perkbox was flying, people were making a lot of money, and they were like, Perkbox had a huge amount of inbound needs and a huge momentum behind it. Doctify was about educating doctors about patients looking them up online. And that was the first big challenge. Then once they bought into that, then it was like, and here's a solution that can do that for you. Whereas Perkbox was different.
Talk through that journey of Perkbox. So my understanding is you joined post-seed, pre-Series A.
Yeah.
And then you was right through to exit, started as an individual contributor, exited as a director?
So I left as, I think my last title was something like strategy director, because they wanted to keep me happy. But I mean, Perkbox was incredible. So first of all, it was a company called Huddlebuy when I first joined. There was about 8 people in a tiny room above a guitar shop in Denmark Street, central London, next to Tottenham Court Road. 2 offices down were the delivery offices, so Deliveroo on that street. It's a weird little central area of tech startups, mainly because they were very run down and very cheap rent. And they were building the new station next to it, so you couldn't open the window in the summer without dust and stuff coming into the office to paint a real picture. And they built this Huddlebuy Gold Card. The idea was you sold it for like £99 a year to an SME. And you get access to loads of discounts from Apple, HP and stuff to help you run your small business really effectively. That wasn't working because you only made £99 a card. And to the date, it was a outbound sales model of someone getting on the phone and selling. And they couldn't quite make the metrics work through LinkedIn and Facebook of people buying it. So they were like, how do we take this? And how do we, CEO Saurav was like, how do we take this and create a loyalty program out of it? So how do we take and sell 10,000 Huddlebuy Gold Cards to some of British Gas or WorldPay or big SME bases to use it as an acquisition and loyalty tool. And the first week, walk in, okay, find 100 companies to sell to, put them in an Excel spreadsheet. I want 6 meetings a week with someone from those companies. Go. That was it. Cold calling, LinkedIning like crazy, emailing like crazy. We got some meetings, and then people were like, "Yeah, but I'm not going to give this Huddlebuy Gold Card out. I want it white labeled." So we got a trial with a company, and they were like, a company called WellPay to launch the WellPay Benefits Club, and they said, what data security do you have in place, and what's it going to look like? And the answer was, we'll get back to you. And 3 weeks later, we went back to them with a completely secure platform, completely white labeled, all ready to go. Nothing to do with me, everyone else working really hard to make that happen. Yeah, we launched, and then it was a process of going up into call centers and helping them use this benefits club to help increase sales and reduce churn. And the real benefit being the reason I really loved it is, we started about 6 months in, 7 months in, started to get some of the savings small businesses were making, and they became more than what they were paying for the services that the people were working with. Amazing. And that became really cool because I felt like I was doing something really powerful for SMEs. Yes, we were making money and building something here, but we're doing something quite cool to help, a bit grandiose, but the British economy grow because we're helping SMEs save money. In the end, that went out to hundreds of thousands of small businesses. In fact, we had through the different loyalty programs, we had 500,000 small businesses using it by the end of 5 years later. But that was not the growth story. The growth story was Perkbox, which was came out of the fact that we had all these loyalty clubs, and people said, I want to give some of these perks to my employees. Can we give them for free? And we were like, no, but again, we'll come back to you. So I have a guy called Ben and a guy called James sat down for 4 weeks solid, built Perkbox. And then, we went out to market with it. And the first 3 months was awful. It was really, really tough to sell it. Everyone's like, why the hell would I buy this for my employees? Because the pitch was, I think we pitched it as the perks for your employees. And they were like, what's that? I was like, it's an employee benefit? Oh, okay, yeah, talk to HR. Yeah. So you had to pick up on that.
And there's no budget?
No budget doesn't exist. Yeah. And so then over kind of, don't worry, I'm not going to go through every year. But basically at that point, then Perkbox started to take off, started to grow, moved four different offices in 5 years, every year growing, grew from... the team was 8 when I joined, and when I left, it was about 300 people in the business, and unbelievable inbound leads coming to the CMO and co-founder of the business. Found out a way and how to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on LinkedIn and Facebook, but make triple back in the same month. It was insane. Incredible. It was a really, really incredible time.
How was that for you going from a individual contributor to you went to a leader during that stage, right?
Yeah.
How was that as a journey? No leadership experience before?
No, and also because it's a startup, no leadership training either.
Yeah, right.
So really hard. What's really hard is you're talking to people that you're the same age or even older than you, and then you're trying to manage them and work it out, and you're trying to do that while you're trying to catch up with everything. I think I still think it's a really underinvested area. And when you look at people getting promoted into jobs, the training is still not there to do it. It's 100%. Such a rounded role. And I've made the mistake multiple times. Should have learned by it. But put your best salesperson, leader of the sales team, goes to pot. Yeah. But if you put someone who's not great, the top lead salesperson's like, why am I not getting that job? And you're like, well, because you don't have the basic leadership qualities, but you're an incredible hunter. You'll make less money. Why don't you just go and sell?
It's interesting to try and build out that individual path, though, isn't it? Because it feels like there's always a ceiling for a great individual contributor in a business.
Yeah.
And you sort of, I don't know many businesses that have done it well. They said, as an account executive, stay there. You can stay there for 10, 15 years. You'll make loads of money.
Yeah.
As much as if you were growing, scaling your own team on the other side.
Yeah. So I've always tried to sell management as less money pathway. You'll have a different journey, but you won't make as much money than if you're a top contributor. But I think that what's hard is no matter what people see, I've got people underneath me, therefore I'm growing in my career versus I'm making more money. And I think unless you make it so much money, it can't be 10 or 15% more. Yep. It needs to be so much more that they're like, oh, I'm just going to stay here and do it. It's worth it. And also, being honest, think about the amount of burnout that exists in sales. Selling is extremely hard. And if you do it nonstop for 6 years and you go, oh, hang on, I'm going to be doing this for another 30 years of my life. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Oh, I might take a management job instead because it doesn't. And it's much harder to manage than to sell because you have very different pressures, but a lot of different pressures. Managing people is extremely difficult. But I think people just get tired and are like, I find an easier path. The amount of salespeople I meet now that go, where do you want to be in 3 years' time? I want to be head of sales enablement. I'm like, I bet you do. I bet you think that looks like the easiest job in the world, and it's not. But they just think, oh, that's the route. So. Yeah, it's really hard.
And what were the biggest growing pains? you started off at 8-person business and you got to 300. How different was it from when you started to when you finished?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it was a really big contributor in me leaving. I didn't enjoy it anymore. I think my favourite growth stage of a business is around 35 to about 100 people, when you still know everyone. Everyone's really contributing to the number. Everyone's really contributing to the growth of the business. It feels to me the moment you start to creep above 120, 130, all of a sudden there's people that are doing jobs, you're like, are you sure? Is anyone watching what that is? Are they doing anything? You start to attract people that aren't attracted to it because it's a startup and they want to work hard in it. Yeah. They're like, oh, that's a shiny, exciting company. That looks like really fun.
Looks cool, yeah.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah. I mean, HR teams are incredibly good at making companies look incredibly exciting to work at. Yeah. I mean, Doctify's recruitment page basically looks like a holiday camp. And I was like, no, we need it needs to look horrible. Put pictures of treadmills on there or something.
We want you.
Exactly. So it's incredible for the rest of the company, but if you want that grafting commercial team, you need to not say this is nirvana. You need to say this is tough and it is challenging and it will be harder than you think, than it looks on the surface, I think. Because I think otherwise you just end up with a team that's not there for the reason that you want them to be there or they are there for either, and then you just have a churn problem.
And that really resonates with our story. I'd say it was about 100 people as well, and it felt like when we're talking about a time at Beza, like everyone there was on the same mission, same goal, same, like, so excited by what we were trying to achieve. And there was definitely a point where people were there because it was cool and because we were growing, but like didn't really understand all the pain that everyone else had gone through to get to that point. And whilst we was doing well at the time, it was bringing in those people really hard, like culturally. I think for the people that have been there a while, and actually, I think what ended up happening is some of the people that have been there a while got pissed off by that and left, and then that's a real change in culture. And how do you build from that?
It's probably an answer that if Tiller explodes, I'll regret in the future. But startups and scale-ups, they're completely different companies and they're completely different phases to a company. So when I went into Doctify, the first thing I said is my job is to make my job redundant. Like, how do I get to the point where this company is a place I no longer want to work at because we've made it so successful and I want to leave because the challenges are bigger than I'm interested in or have the capability of doing, or, you know. So, yeah, I think trying to get people to understand that when you join a startup, what happens, most startups do, because they're desperate to hire people, they go, if you join us, you're going to be sales director of a global multinational within 5 years. And then they tell that to the next 20 salespeople that join. And everyone's like, oh, hang on. Totally agree with it's a big culture clash. The people that are really dogged, the people that walk in the office looking like hell with bags under their eyes, with grey hair by the time they're 24, they're the ones that come in, and there's all these new salespeople rock up and they're like, we're going to change the world, it's going to be exciting. And there's definitely a different type of person that's gone into the role. It's not bad, it's just a different type of person. So at Doctify, we had a core kind of individual sales team selling to individual doctors in the UK. Had about 6 phases in 5 years. And it got each one kind of had its own identity. One of them was awful. One of them went really awry, and we had to really kind of almost restart with the team again because the culture just slipped into just thinking. There was a time when you talked to most doctors and the close rate was like 45%, and it was like, oh, this is really easy. And then that was due to a few partnerships that happened. A few of those partnerships, spoken to all the doctors in those partnerships, and then all of a sudden there was really back to cold doctors again to talk to, and they couldn't hack it because they'd had such an easy sell for about 7 months that then when they started to sell the more difficult bit, which was the educating them on the pain point to start with, rather than asking them if they had the pain point. The sales team just wasn't ready for it, and we tried to train it, we tried to change it, but ultimately, you know, it just kind of, the team evolved to a different type of salesperson.
And then when like you evolved, as Doctify as a client, moved into expansion across the world and focused in the Middle East, which is kind of where we started our journey together. Yeah. How have you found the Middle East? What has been your perception of the Middle East salesperson compared to the likes of the UK and beyond?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Every single country you go to will say it's extremely different to sell in this country, extremely different to sell. And it's true with some points, and it's just definitely not true with other points. Salespeople trying to convince me it's not about activity in every other country I've sold in. It's like, oh, really, is it? Oh, right, here it doesn't matter, does it? 5 calls a day, it'll work. Come on. Middle East was tough because of the face-to-face culture and it's doctors as well. Then in other regards, the Middle East was much easier because the doctors are more commercially minded than in the UK, and they are also much stronger in terms of thinking about their image online. Doctors in the UK, it's all about, everyone in the industry knows that I'm that person. Best line to say to a doctor in the UK is, but I Googled you and I don't know that. And they're like, oh, right, maybe I should do something about it. But in the UAE, they definitely get the point is you need to look online. Also, the culture of just literally the makeup of the country, right? It's expat changing over all the time, new people coming. You've got to find them all, got to be found somehow. It's hard to build up a core list of clients that are just going to stay with you for life because people keep coming and going. So very different. Germany was by far the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, and
we know.
Yeah, that was. I remember with Germany. I remember going, it's the fourth country we're doing. Everyone says it has to be different here, but we keep getting it right, and somehow we keep being able to deliver it. And Germany was like running into a brick wall. Like, it was unbelievably tough. And it was a big cultural change. And yeah, scaling that market was extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. It was still going strong. We got it to profitability, and, but the plan changed from, maybe Germany's big enough to just take it to, we're probably going to have to keep finding other countries to keep growing to. So went to Australia. Australia is a really exciting market as long as you like being awake at midnight in the UK. But we moved Australian management out to Dubai, and as a result, Australia market going really well, again, really commercial. Okay, so key thing on hiring people, everyone is different, and UAE is an amazing place to hire salespeople. It is insane. Everyone here is here to hustle and grow their careers quicker than if they were in the UK or Ireland. And so there is just a different work ethic here. I come here once a year, mainly to get a top up of energy from people that I'll just talk to them like, what are you doing? Well, I've got a personal training business and I've got a full-time job and I'm doing this workout and I'm dating 4 times a week and also I'm going to a beach club on Saturday. You're like, what are you doing? I've clearly fallen behind in terms of my energy levels. So coming here is good. It's a really good place to hire people, and yeah, Tiller will, when we grow our big sales team after our next funding round, it will be here because it has the hustle culture that you need at the size of business we will be to really make it explode and grow. And I don't think you get that in London in the same way you did even 5 years ago.
Cool. Well, that's part 2. I think we'll get to part 3, do some quick fire, and we've got a playbook question for you. Cool, part 3. So Alistair would do a quick fire round. Just going to fire some sales related questions. Give us your first answers. We'll ask for a little rationale between them, and then we'll do the playbook, and then we'll let you go.
Cool.
Cool. So cold calling or hyper personalized emails?
Cold calling.
What is that then?
Some old school. Hyper-personalized emails are amazing, and there are a few companies that are doing really good work. There are a few companies doing some terrible work in that space, so definitely based on the provider. Cold calling, because of the industry I'm in, talking to sales directors, and a lot of sales directors are plus 40, means they still appreciate a cold call. In other industries, I'm sure it's different, but doctors in Doctify, get a doctor on the phone, you have a chance of having a meeting, and even if it's face-to-face meeting, they're going to show up. Whereas if you get an email response saying, yeah, meet me at 3 at this place, the chance of that cancelling is quite high. So I think just the voice connects you in a way that any digital communication doesn't.
Lovely. Community building or networking?
Networking, because community building is a long-term expensive thing to do. And based on where Tiller is right now, we want to do networking. But yeah, obviously, grand scheme. I mean, Perkbox built an unbelievable community of HR leaders. That one of the parties, they had about 5,000 HR people turned up to a party in London for them. And it was, you close deals because people in HR would talk to other people in HR and go, it's the best. And it was, yeah, so long-term, definitely community building. Long
sales cycle or short sales cycle?
Short sales cycle, know where you are all the time, get it done. And also short sales cycle because you don't have to worry about the summer and Christmas as much. You don't have to worry about it.
Enterprise or SMB deals?
SMB deals. because I was talking to someone about the other day about the difference between a unicorn and a cockroach. Unicorn, obviously, getting to $1 billion as quickly as possible. Cockroach, reason people like investing in cockroaches is if you've got 10,000 customers all paying you 100 quid a month, if you lose 20% of them, you've only lost X amount of money. If you've got 10 enterprise customers working with you, you can get in serious trouble quite quickly. So yeah, S&P.
And I think I know the answer to this one, but working weekends or fully switching off?
I'm now a fully switching off guy.
Come on. Since when?
Since we raised money. No. Thank you, investors. No, I used to work a lot, and actually my last CEO, Stephanie, I worked with, she said, you're the hardest person. The person you're hardest on is yourself all the time. You need to learn how to switch off. And so weekends, I turn off notifications on my email, on my Slack, and you switch off. And it doesn't mean I won't think about it. Often I'll be driving and I'll be like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll think about that. Or it might not be a good idea.
It's having that space, right? There's 100%. There's a space between the notes that makes the music. Switching off helps you think like the creative space. I think is really powerful.
And you're just better Monday.
Yeah.
And one of the things why I would encourage anyone to find a business is Monday morning becomes, if you can turn off on Friday night and when you switch back on Monday morning, you're like, oh my God, I get to build this thing this week. That's cool. Such a nice feeling. So yeah.
Office or remote, mate?
Office.
Yep. How do you switch off? So weekend switching off now, how do you do it?
I've done my midlife crisis thing and started marathon running.
Hey.
So trying to build my stamina in that. So go bit of running. Got a dog, so I take long walks with the dog who hates me running. So I go for a run and then take him for a walk afterwards instead.
That's your weekend gone.
Yeah. Big fan of food, clearly. So I've just started really doing cooking, really slow recipes. I'm really excited about the winter coming back to the UK because you can sit there, slow cooker out, put a film on, bottle of red wine, 5 hours of cooking something, eat it, fall asleep on the sofa. That's good, right? The best way to spend a Sunday. No evening drinking. Have some drink with lunch and then fall asleep.
What's the best bit of sales advice you've ever received?
It's a really old school one, but it's true. It's the numbers game.
Yep. Finally, mate, what's the one tip you'd leave the community before we go?
I think the thing that you'll hear everything on every podcast at the moment is persistence, and they keep going. But I think it's find a way to be happy and persistent. And I think that's a big change that I've made in my life about switching off at the weekends, trying to find sports and activities that switch me off, because you can be persistent, but if you're miserable and persistent, you're actually not going to be very persistent at all. You're probably going to get very tired of it and very sick of it quite quickly. So pursue happiness and be persistent. I think that's what I would leave to the community with.
Amazing.
Awesome. Love it.
So before we go, we have a tradition where we have our sales playbook. So the previous guest has asked sales related question that they have. So once we finish, I'll get you to give yours and then we'll get the next guest to ask it. So Wes from episode 2 has asked, how do you ensure your team build a healthy sales pipeline?
First of all, try and have a structured pipeline that actually makes sense. The amount of pipelines I see that are kind of regimented to a HubSpot or something is quite high. And normally you'll have a first meeting, follow-up meeting, and then it'll go into developing. And developing is basically just left for the entire sales cycle and never broken down into how it's working. So get that structure right, first of all. Second of all, make sure what people are putting in it is accurate. And I think, a little plug for Tiller here. One of the things Tiller does, obviously records the call, but then we analyze the call afterwards, and then we can fill the CRM notes automatically. And so what that means is you can, one, the salesperson doesn't have to write it, but two, you can make sure the accuracy of what's in that pipeline is spot on. And if you record the call as well, and you can say to a salesperson, what happened in that call? Oh, it's going to close tomorrow. Okay, well, let's just watch what happened in the call. It's not going to close till 26, is it? So I think accountability in that pipeline is really important, and you need to find a way to track it and measure it rather than just relying on your team to do it, because it's not the team members' fault that they're trying to do it. You're putting them under a huge amount of pressure, and one way they can relieve that pressure is not having an accurate pipeline, but making you think it's going to look good. And then the most important thing is ignore your pipeline for 4 days a week and just keep adding stuff into it.
Yeah, nice.
I think pipeline is structure, make sure it's accurate, and then really focus on what matters, which is how do you put as many opportunities in there as possible. That's what I would focus on.
Amazing, mate. Thanks so much. Before we go, you have the opportunity to pitch Tiller? Do you want to say anything else before we go, where people can find you, and do you want to spread some Tiller love?
Yeah, sure. So Tiller.com was £75,000 and GoTiller.com was £3.50. So you can, bought both. No, we didn't. So if you want to look up anything on Tiller, it's GoTiller.com. In terms of what we do, it's two things. It's conversations guidance software for sales teams. So what we want to do is help you close the deal on a pitch and put the information for you to do that during the pitch. So many tools out there say this is what you should have done. Great. Or a lot going into the prep. So we want to help you when you're on a pitch. The very typical thing would be you get an objection. I don't know, it's too expensive. How do you handle that pitch? So we'll analyze all of the conversations that are happening, find out how the top performers handle that objection, plus bring in some AI to give you some pointers on how top performers in other companies would deal with that objection, and deliver that to you on a prompter for you then to read off and be prompted to deliver the right response. And the second thing we do is we automate your CRM, so 100% CRM fill, and salespeople don't have to do anything at all about doing that. And that just gives you all that time back. So higher conversion rate, more time back in your day.
So if you hate filling out your CRM, Tiller is the thing that's going to change your life.
Yeah, I mean, we've literally built some of the most cool technology in prompters. Everyone just goes, I never have to fill a CRM in again. Great. Fine. Wow. So product market fit for filling in CRMs, we've nailed it. You come and see us immediately. You want to get higher conversion rates across bigger teams, then we can also help you with that.
Alistair, great to have you, and thanks so much for your time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.